Welcome to this is a monthly webinar series we do, and we pick a different topic every month related to software development, often agile and lean software development practices. The topic today we have is what lean brings to product marketing. As many of you are familiar with the general concept of lean thinking broadly, and specifically the lean startup thinking as espoused by Eric Ries in his book Lean Startup, to product marketing, and shed some light on what that means. So that's the topic we'll cover today. For logistics, as usual, we'll have roughly 45 minutes or so of presentation, and I'll introduce the speaker, Cindy, in a minute. And then we'll reserve some time at the end, 10 minutes or so, for taking broader questions, but we'll also be happy to take questions along the way. Any particular question that needs to be answered in the flow, I'll act as the moderator, and you guys put in your questions as they come to you, and I'll keep track of them. Some questions we'll take along the way, and then any bigger cross-cutting questions I'll keep for the end and the last 10-15 minutes. And we'll make the document available to people who are registered or attended the webinar today through our website. With that, let me introduce our speaker. I'm delighted to have Cindy Solomon be the featured speaker for this topic today. Cindy is hosts a global product management. She's sort of a product management expert, from what I can gather. Product Management Talk, it is a top 10 business podcast on Blog Talk Radio, which reaches more than 30,000 listeners per episode. Cindy founded the Startup Product Movement, which is a very popular one for product excellence and Startup Product Academy. And she's startup product community conferences and educational opportunities which facilitate a holistic view of product, a strategic foundation forwarding product leaders using innovative approaches in their organizations and across their careers, with a bias towards action and cross-discipline collaboration. Cindy is a product marketing expert, as I mentioned, and she's contributed as an author to several books, including 42 Rules of Product Marketing. That's one of the very popular books. I have it on my bookshelf related to product marketing, and also the Guide to the Product Book of Knowledge, Management and Marketing Book of Knowledge. She has over 20 years of experience in these topics. With that, let me turn it over to Cindy. Cindy, over to you.
Hi, Hemant. Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here today and very excited to share my point of view. Most of the time I spend showcasing other thought leaders and curating content for the community and actually applying these principles. So today I'm delighted to share with how I arrived at building a community applying lean principles. And on every slide, except for this one, I've included the URLs for the background material so people can follow through. So I want to cover today what is lean product marketing, because lean has not really been discussed from a product marketing point of view. And I want to explain the distinctions I see between what product marketing management and product management is, because those aren't well understood in agile communities as distinctions, as well as what product marketing management is tasked with, and then move from a strategic view to an example of tactical implementation. So I just, as an overview, Ari Deguy, in his book, The Living Company, says that the ability to learn faster than your competitors may be the only sustainable competitive advantage. And the whole intention of product marketing is to look at what needs to be built, where is the market, and how do we identify the market before we start building products, and how do we remain competitive? How do we bring value to all of the business functions? So from Ash Maurya's Running Lean, he says that lean is about speed, learning, and focus, testing a vision by measuring how customers behave, engaging customers throughout the development process, and product and market validation is done in parallel using short iterations. So from this point of view, product marketing has always been focused on learning, responding to the market, doing marketing tests, and improving the results. So that's what I was looking at. Is running lean is it a new concept? Is it something that hasn't been identified before? And the issue is, even if it isn't a new orientation, it's about how it's implemented that makes a difference. Marc Andreessen had been quoted as seeing lean startup methodology being used inappropriately as an excuse to not take sales and marketing seriously. And so this is really the impetus for why I started looking at doing this presentation to explain the importance of sales and marketing, what already exists, in that there are product marketing professionals who have been looking at that. So the lean principles are: identify your customers and what they value, map the value stream, create flow to the customer, establish pull based on customer demand, and seek continuous improvement. This could also be called the marketing funnel, in what product marketers are always doing, looking at the customers to see what they want and what they need, to understand what their perspective is, so we can push products and content into what the customers want. Because if the customers don't want it, why bother? So the intention is to provide value at every step of this process. Specify the value from the standpoint of the end customer by product family. Again, this is a product-centric point of view. As a product marketing manager, I'm responsible for an individual product or a product line. I want to identify the steps in the value stream for each product family, eliminating steps that do not create value. Usually we have limited resources, so there's no way that we could support steps that aren't providing results. Create smooth flow, make the value creating steps occur in tight sequence so the product will flow smoothly towards the customer. Let customers pull value from the next upstream activity, and repeat until you reach perfection, if that is ever possible. So what I find in discussing product is that there's many internal views of what the product needs, and even what the importance of the product, the value of the product, and the experience of the product. So this is using the allegory of the 6 blind people who are told to describe the elephant, but they can't see the elephant. All they can describe is the experience they're having at the direct point that they're interacting with the elephant. And so this is where there is disconnect internally in understanding not only the value of the product, but even what the customer experience is. So up here in the left, the customer doesn't even see the elephant in the room, but their experience is they're smelling something gray. Internally, support sees a different piece of the product than the developers see. Certainly UX has a different experience from the front end. Sales is trying to sell perhaps a different product than what was intended. QA is dealing with quality assurance issues that also may not be viewed from other points of view. So this is what the problem is internally, and also what the product marketing manager is tasked with, viewing the product from all perspectives and understanding what those perspectives are. So the goal and focus for any product marketing team is to conceive, develop, deliver, penetrate, and end of life the most successful products within its niche with successful repeat performances again and again. This is what product marketing has always been tasked with. Lean brings perhaps efficiency to this process. Strategic product marketing plays a critical role in successfully driving products into the marketplace by understanding the current market environment and developing strategy to drive customer awareness. So in small organizations, there often is not a distinction between a product marketing function and a product management function, but it's critical to understand what the focus is. Product marketing will be focused out to the market. These are tactical issues that they will be responsible for, identifying the correct pricing, developing the collateral, which is the story of the product, it's the sales tools, perhaps being the evangelist or doing the positioning, the messaging, identifying the market, background and environment, implementing the go-to-market plan. Product management, which is understood internally, is focused on product requirements, feature requirements, the specific issues having to do with developing the product in the product build internally. They overlap when it comes to beta testing, demoing the product, interfacing on a project plan, doing product training on various types of roadmaps, on process, and on other quality assurance issues. So there are strategic, technical, marketing, and sales, product marketing. Yes?
Let me take one question before you go on. In this previous picture, this overlapping Venn diagram, can you provide some guidance on are these two different people, and or can same person effectively play these two different roles, product marketing and product management, in your experience?
So often in a small organization, and certainly in a startup, if there's product managers at all, and if you read job descriptions, they want people to cover all of this because they only have one product manager. Why it's very difficult to do is not only because the focus is different, but the skill set, almost there's different sides of the brain involved. In product marketing, it's emphasizing with the market outside of the product, and having to understand from a non-initiated point of view what is the benefits and the value of the product. Whereas product management is internally faced and is knee-deep or elbow-deep into the product features and the specifics of the products and where the product is at this point of time. So it's very difficult to extricate yourself from being that deep inside the product to then step outside that and understand a perspective from someone who doesn't care any of those things but only cares about how the product benefits them. So that's where, ideally, there's also different skill sets between product marketing and product management, but that is the task of product management professionals, to understand both sides and as deeply as possible be able to represent both. It's just very challenging.
Right, that makes sense. Thanks.
So I just wanted to outline some product marketing activities which are distinct from product management activities. So product marketing is always focused on the marketing issue and uses different methodologies, one being a win-loss analysis, identifying distinctive competence, defining the market, really focusing on distribution. And again, this is something that really nobody else in the organization, and I'm talking not only about software and certainly not only about web-based applications, because these are relevant to all different types of product. And distribution is a key issue for product marketing professionals, and distribution is often not included when discussing product from other points of view. And so that's key to the product marketing professional is adding value at every level and showcasing a perspective that nobody else either has time or isn't looking at strategically. So there is a cross-functional view that when you focus on where the product is in its life cycle, it enables a conversation that brings us all together on what will serve the product most to arrive at product market fit, sustain growth, and generate revenue streams. And so the cross-functional view is actually a key to the lean perspective, that it takes looking at things coming together and collaborating. And this has led to the startup product movement, that bringing people together from a different point of view to have these discussions. So this is just an example. If you go to school, if you get an MBA, you're going to go very deep into what is a product, what identifies a product in the different product perspectives. I'm just using this slide to show you again, here's where product marketing professionals are going into defining where the product is, how it fits, and how it exists in the marketplace. Again, a product manager, product management professionals would have less time to deal with this. So in 1978, Donald Norman talked about the life cycle of products and why good products can fail. And he started with the personal computer in the PC, and he identified a life cycle of products where in the early days, technology can't meet all the needs of its customers. The early adopters need the technology, so they'll suffer inconvenience to get it. With time, when the technology matures, there's better performance, higher reliability, and the expectations increase. But when the technology exceeds the basic needs of most of its behavior, and there's an emotional reaction, pride of ownership and pleasurability become major selling points. So the customer experience becomes key at the last phase of product adoption. This is showing the product growth cycle. Again, I just want to quickly identify that the product life cycle is defined as a period that starts with the initial product design and it ends with the withdrawal of the product from the marketplace. So product management professionals are staying with the product and watching it from inception to obsolescence. And here it's showing that there's not necessarily a first-to-market advantage, that a company will come in at the beginning and they will be the only one. They'll hold a monopoly, but then the first competitors in other entries into the market, they actually have an advantage because they have learned. The first-to-market has created and educated the market. The competitors now can build upon that and scale much quickly, while the initial first-to-market it already has it has to work very hard at continuing to innovate. Again, this is just a long-tail view that product managers are looking at in order to increase the scale of the product. So there is a product management life cycle from conception through retirement that I want to walk through, and this really identifies what product marketing and product managers are tasked with. This is the AIPMM product management framework. So they actually looked at all the different frameworks for how do you manage products in the industry. And they wanted to come up with an intuitive way to explain what product management is, because there is no standardized language of product management. Often in Silicon Valley, when I'm talking with agile people, their understanding of product management is actually what the product owner does, which is tactical. And the product owner is really only involved in the build and in feeding the information required to forward that build. But product management as a business function is involved with the product from the beginning to the end. And this is showcasing not only software, which would be along the bottom, but all different kinds of products, including hardware, pharmaceuticals, commercial. Shown as a phase gate to identify, not saying that all products go through this linear development function, but just to understand all of the actions, deliverables, concerns that the product management and product marketing professionals would be involved in at each phase. And so this framework, this is actually a very high-level view, and it actually drops down showing all of the business functions and all of the involvement they have with the product at different points in time. But I just identified the product management and product marketing. So you see where product marketing is involved with. And what happens often in a technology-driven company is that the focus is on developing and launching the product, and so they don't bring product marketing in until much too late. And right at the conceive phase, in the plan phase, product marketing is involved in identifying, is there a market, and planning to launch the product because there's a lot involved in a successful launch. And really, product marketing is always concerned with scaling the product and having it live in the market for a long time. So these aren't really showing how much time is involved at each phase, because certainly the deliver phase would be the longest. This is when the product is in the market. And within the, this phase, there's constant experiments. There's experiments going on from a marketing point of view at every piece of this as well. But marketing is, the product could be in the market for many years, and it needs to be constantly scaling, iterating, and finding new market opportunities. So in the conceive...
Let's take one question on this graphic that you're just showing.
Okay.
It gives an appearance, especially with the word phase gates at the bottom, an appearance of a linear process in context of people adopting lean startup thinking of defining an MVP and going to market and then coming back into expanding the product idea and scope. Can you help people understand how that short cycles of market feedback and iteration comes into play in this what otherwise looks like a linear process?
So let me make a distinction right here. This is not a procedure framework. So Agile is a process. This is a way of talking about what product management, product marketing, and all the different viewpoints within the business organization. So this is not suggesting, yes, stage gate is a process, but this is not suggesting that there is a linear process that must take place. So don't think of this as a process point of view. This is explaining from a point of view of what needs to happen within each phase, and there are milestones that are achieved. But as I said, that there will be cycles. So Agile is occurring here within circles. So there's all build, measure, learn, qualify. It's actually occurring continuously. So there's continuous improvement and experiments going on at each phase. And so let me go in deeper to
Great.
each of these.
Thanks.
Okay, so in the conceive phase, and this, again, process people are thinking about implementation, but this is actually identifying a thought process and a strategic process. So the purpose of the conceive phase is to answer what is missing in the market, what products might be missing, what problems don't have solutions. Get that opportunity, and what is the value of that opportunity? So before we even think about building a product or a solution in an ideal scenario, if you're starting from scratch, you want to find the market before you build the product. And that's what the intention of this phase is. Now, in big companies that are doing research and development, this is where they're starting. Where is the opportunity? Where should we invest funds to move forward? Clay Christensen talks about people buy products to get jobs done. So looking at what jobs do people need done, not literally jobs, but what results do people need to produce that we could build a solution to enable them to do that better, that they would value enough to pay us money to do. And so the product marketing manager is looking at trends, looking at the competitive space, and trying to capture the distinct opportunity and to identify ubiquitous pains and unmet necessities that is the mother of invention. So looking at not only inventing something for the point of producing a product, but producing a product for the purpose of generating revenue streams. So there's a life cycle. Every product, startup idea, passes through to be realized, to come from idea to result. And this is a creative process. And the reason why I put this in is because often people ask me, well, what is product management? Or UX people will tell me, we're managing the product. And so I wanted to have a way to explain the value of product management, but and also to recognize that everyone involved in product companies, from developers to UX people, product managers, I think they're artists. And the creative process is really what the artist goes through. And it really starts with observing what exists, observing what is missing, but really standing outside of a point of view, and this is what ethnographers do, to observe what is currently happening without assumptions. So you observe, then you define goals, issues, and objectives. You analyze them to understand and integrate them. You identify patterns based on those observations. Then you incubate the idea. You reflect. You take time. Then you prototype the idea and evaluate whether it's accurate. And from there, you create a high fidelity prototype. It may be a video, a graphic, a design. It may be content, photography. And then you measure it to see if it is aligned with your observation. And through going through this many times, and here's where the build, measure, experiment, learn is all mapped to this. It's all aligned with this. Somewhere in going through these process of experiments, you will arrive at what they're calling moments that matter, but you'll arrive at an idea that's worth pursuing. So that's what happens in the conceive phase. In the plan phase, product marketing is looking at, okay, now we have an idea, but why should we build it? We have to justify building it. And historically, market requirements documents would be a culmination of the market research, of the competitive space, of justifying the business case, aligning the justification with what exists currently, the business mission and the business goals. And then the business model canvas basically took the business plan and the marketing requirements plan into a one-page visual, and Ash Maria took that into a product canvas, and there's other one-page overviews to tell the story of why we should pursue building this product in all of the details. Again, planning is to justify what to build, and then product requirements have been the traditional document that went to the engineers to start the build. So this is what was developed in the planning phase. This come out of the planning phase, which is a persona. Once you identify the market, you want to identify who is an individual target within that market and get it down to very granular points of view. This is by Mike Gosby, who wrote The Marketing High Ground, and this is available online. And he goes very deep into, okay, so you have a product idea. Who is the people who it would be most valuable to, and how can you describe what they value, what they fear, what their pain is, and where they go for information, and then as much as you can describe individuals, this is going to inform your describing the product and justifying the use for it, and really being able to zero in how to find the people who would value the product the most. Again, done in the planning. This is a positioning statement template, and again, we need to do for the external market, but also to communicate the narrative of the product. So for this one particular target or persona, this person, this ideal, is the one company or product So the issue is they started with the problem and naming the problems. And I see this as a engineering point of view. Engineers always want to solve problems. And then it goes over, okay, we've identified the problem first. Now let's look at what customer segments are available. Now we'll look at our unique value proposition. That is all very important to understand. But Shardul Mehta, who is a product management professional, took that and turned it into a product management point of view, how product managers operate. We start with the customer, and then we go to the problem. And then we identify what's unique about how we're going to solve the customer's problems or satisfy their needs, and asking questions about the customer in order to make a clear, compelling message that states why this product will be different and why it's worth buying. Then we go to what the solution is and describe how that solution is currently being solved and how we might do it better. And that is what the key success vectors is. What will our product development process result in that is different than what already exists? And how will we get, keep, and grow our existing customer base? Key, again, all done in the planning before any build. Identifying who are the key stakeholders, and stakeholders are people who are touched or affected by the product, and this is internally as well as externally. And what resources and partners can we engage right here in the planning phase in order to key in and roll out the whole process? Always attached to the revenue and the business value and the business goals and mission. And that's another key thing that product managers do, constantly making sure that the whole product process is aligned with the intention of the business. And then, of course, the cost structure, what's involved and how much can we charge and what is the projected revenue. If all of these things are too expensive, it doesn't matter how good the product is, it won't provide revenue to the business.
Hey, Cindy, can we take one question right here then?
Yes.
So the question is, how much do you have advice for teams building new products, that how much time is appropriate to be spending in this phase to define the concept and validate the business ideas around it, meaning cost structure, revenue, and unique value proposition and channels, all those things that go with the product canvas here, versus so how much is doing that is overdoing it? Do you have some idea for teams to know if they're doing this for 6 months or 6 years, is it better for them to start building and they're getting some market feedback early, or how much is it not enough that they too quickly rush into building some things? Any guidance for new teams that's tackling new product development?
So that is the quintessential question, and that's an excellent question. How much time is involved? So I want to say that it's not about building these documents and taking time. These documents are actually just, they're documenting the experiments that are taking place. So it's not wait to do the planning before you find the market. It's make an assumption, write it down, do the experiments. But you can actually do experiments in the planning phase, because the most expensive thing to do is to build. To write code is extremely expensive. So what we want to do is increase the likelihood that once you commit to code, you're building the right thing. And there will be constantly testing. And even these planning documents, the purpose is to speed the process. And that's why these documents are constantly being updated, but they're documenting the assumptions so everyone is on the same page. So we're all working aligned. We're planning while we're testing, and it's okay to build as long as the build doesn't require a lot of investment in resources.
Great, thanks.
So in product development, so often everything else in this, the product is always viewed from even the agile perspective. It's a developer's view on product. So this flips it over and gives a product marketing view on product development. So product development is a process by which an organization transforms data on marketing opportunities and technical possibilities into information assets for commercial production. And ironically, this goes back to the auto industry where the whole lean principles came out of. It's a good read. It's actually, it's not a new book. It's been around for a while, but they captured all of these principles looking at, well, look, we're not building for the fun of building. Yes, clearly people, enjoy building, but if what we're building is not generating value in the market, it's not going to sustain the business. Okay, and here is where we come to the minimal viable product. Again, from a product management point of view, an MVP is about delivering real value to customers for the purposes of maximizing validated learning. And so MVP is totally misunderstood and misconstrued. So going back to Eric Ries, he even says it requires judgment to figure out for any given context what MVP makes sense. And here's the value of product management to the whole process. It should be the product managers who are identifying what the value is through everything that I've talked about previously, why we do personas, why we do positioning statements, why we're tapping the competitive space is to guarantee that we have identified and are creating a valuable result that is going to generate revenue based on what the customer experience is. So the third phase of the framework is develop. And while the development is occurring, and again, this is not linear. This is happening on a continuous basis. But the product manager and the product marketer during the development phase is creating and communicating roadmaps. And the roadmaps also may be portrayed as linear, but they're communication vehicles to explain to the different stakeholders from the CEO, the founders, the investors, all the way down to customer support and service. Here's where the product is, here's the intention of the product, here's what the value of the product is, so you see that it's aligned with what your goals are, and so you can tee up and be prepared for all the different places that the product needs to go to generate success. So during development, product roadmaps are used by project managers to confine the projects within time and financial restrictions. But the product manager and the product marketing manager uses the product roadmap as a communication vehicle to make sure that it's aligned across all of the different viewpoints of the product. And this is just a great slide just showing that there's different perspectives of the product internally, and that's what product managers and product marketing managers do. They speak into each of these different perspectives. There's a business development perspective, and they care about the financial analysis, and they're involved with scaling the business. There's a company perspective, and product development is one piece of all of the other company functions going on, and then there's the product development perspective, and the product manager sees all these perspectives, whereas people whose job that are tasked with focusing in each of these areas, they only see their own perspective. And this is, again, we would develop roadmaps that speak into their understanding, so to make sure that across all the company functions there's alignment with guaranteeing the success of this product. So the fourth stage in the product management framework would be qualify the product, and I'm just saying what product managers would be doing. They would be managing the beta test if that exists, and again, it's going on in loops simultaneously. And the joke here is for Dilbert, when the manager, well, whoever, the CEO, I guess, is saying, how long will it take to fix any problems we find in our beta product? And Dilbert says, it's logically impossible to schedule for the unknown. Of course, the head person says, try to think as a manager, not as an engineer. And so he says, as a manager, in that case, we'll fix the problems before we find them. Certainly, we would like to do that, but I always see sometimes quality assurance in the qualification phase is jumped over because we're testing in the market, we're getting market feedback, but it's still not something that can be dismissed. Launch is a key point that needs to be planned for before the launch. What happens in startups is they think that if they're mentioned on TechCrunch, that is the launch. We put out a press release, the product has been launched. We did a demo at a launch event. All of those are one piece of a big launch plan that requires a lot of planning and implementation to guarantee success of the product. It's not a one event thing. It's a planning to create anticipation and buzz, build a list, the landing page, tee up all of the different things that would generate some excitement about it, and then plan the event and all of the logistics involved in that, and then create early demand. Sometimes playing on scarcity is intentional. We have a limited amount of downloads available at this point. Again, it's showing 2009. These are not new thinking about launch, but certainly lean in the web increases the speed. Product marketing drives a product narrative across all of these things. So marketing strategy is, again, it's a huge endeavor. It's always focused on delivering value. There's processes involved to create demand, to maximize investment. There's a whole bunch of go-to-market implementation procedures. Field enablement is enabling sales to sell into the market. You want to give sales the information that's accurate about the product. So they're selling the product as it exists now and not the product as they might want it to be. Social media is one of the tactics, and the value proposition is what drives the full strategy. Product marketing is responsible for identifying the value proposition and the full narrative that would be transmitted across all of these phases. This is an example of one tactic involved in a launch plan to identify thought leaders and identify the thought leader subject matter. Have them create content. And so these are different tactical maneuvers that are driven all out of the positioning statement that product marketing management would have developed. And all the different places of what would occur in order to build buzz for pre-launch and then launch. And this was specifically talking about they were pivoting into a new branding. So in phase 6, it's about delivering into the market, and again, it's not a one-time thing. This is an ongoing thing, and where this all started is the market is always providing feedback, and product marketing is always doing experiments and being responsive to the market feedback, because if the product isn't selling, then there's a huge problem. In the market, there's so many opportunities to get feedback from the market. But in big organizations, they might have distinctions within marketing, so marketing communications would be involved with the external facing representation of the product, press release and analysts, branding, and market intelligence and strategy. So these are product marketing delivers the product narrative and the product value so that the marketing communications functions can follow through into all these other areas. So here's an example of how I took lean principles and implemented them in my experience, because one thing that's really important is to always be eating the dog food, always be applying your lessons learned. So developing lean content, the principles are write less and say more. Curate what already exists. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, and analyze the data. So much data is available on the web at every point. And I want to say that even before the web, product marketing and marketing always got a lot of data from the revenue, from it was always data driven. Let me say, in big organizations, marketing was always data-driven. Otherwise, they would not get funding to forward new initiatives. But so with Lean, we get to create fast feedback loops. You always want to provide on-demand messaging across all platforms. So Lean content is about writing once and then repositioning that content across all the different mediums, respecting the platforms and repositioning and reformatting that content appropriately for that platform. By that I mean mobile, I mean social media platforms, as well as video, graphic representations. Understand who the audience is in each of those platforms, have it dovetail into the the target market and the segmentation that was previously documented, and make that product available, make that content available. And for is their product. Different views. So this is just a graphic I like, and studies show people respond to graphics, and they actually do tests about which is the correct color. Ideally, to get loyalty for your product, and it's all driven from content as a product that is positioned correctly for the audience, identifying the correct messages. And so this is talking about a new marketing strategy where you plan based on search engines, you create content in social media, then you create, these are all different types of ways of, different types of content, from podcasts to e-courses to online tools. There's micro learning now, which are 5-minute courses. You publish to all the platforms. This is just showing some of them, but there are different types of platforms. You promote it across Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, all the public-facing platforms you manage, you analyze, so much data and feedback that you get through Google Analytics and views and traffic, and then you go right back through the cycle. So you're constantly iterating.
So Cindy, let's take one question right now on this one. So do you have a perspective, given that you're covering here on marketing strategy and content, distinction between marketing and what you were covering in the first part, product marketing?
So in a small organization, if there is product marketing at all, product marketing would be responsible for the strategy where I started, as well as the implementation. Often, if there is no product marketing, who isn't deeply involved with the product is involved in implementation of social media and everything else, but the problem is there may be a disconnect in the messaging that they're putting out and the intention and the alignment with the business. So this is marketing strategy, which from a product marketing point of view, I am feeding into this process the correct content, the correct positioning, all of the strategic foundation for them to carry through, or I am hands-on making all of this happen myself.
Okay, all right, thanks.
So a lot of what I'm trying to showcase is all of the elements involved in understanding what it takes to generate ongoing revenue streams. So this is, now they took lean into, and content marketing is coming out as a separate professional endeavor. They're content marketing strategists. I think, those would be the information management people previously. Currently, they may be the copywriters, the technical document people, anyone who is involved in the content that to repurpose it, to use it, or to get rid of it and to streamline. And to make sure that content as a product, that every piece of it is worthwhile in generating value. That every piece of content, the intention is to sell the value of the product or provide value to the end user. So develop strategies, create great content to answer your target audience's questions and solve their problems. This is what FAQs were, frequently asked questions, but you can build those into blog posts, tweets, all kinds of other content. So you want to answer the questions before they're asked, rather than in an ideal world, rather than not recognizing that this may be a problem for a piece of the market. You want to identify that, publish the content across all channels, promote the content, manage, maintain, review, update, and archive content on an ongoing basis. Again, here are the cycles: build, measure, learn, and respond. Collect, measure, and analyze marketing data to assess engagement, conversion rates, leads, and sales. So product marketing may be driving from the top end. Here is the appropriate content, and making sure all of this is aligned with selling the product, and also identifying through this feedback and through the marketing data, there may be other markets, there may be other segments, there may be other types of customers that hadn't been identified in the planning process. But based on the feedback, how they're responding or how they're using the content, that they should be included as a new target and potentially a new revenue stream. This is a periodic table of content. Here's a URL for it. And basically, you know, we love to use graphic representation. I love it because really it's not as complex as it looks. It's just a way of mapping all of the elements involved in content marketing. And again, so is a framework. All the frameworks are a way to simplify complex information so we can communicate it effectively. And this is just saying, okay, there's a content strategy, there's different ways of different types of formats for content, from articles, slideshows, videos. It's just taking it down to a granular level. Here are the different types of platforms. I think it's missing some. It doesn't have, it has Twitter, Instagram, but of course there's always new entries. Here are the metrics, and again, from your point of view, depending on what content you're putting out and how you're measuring the consumption of that content, you may have different metrics than what is here. But for growth hackers, they're concerned with these metrics and totally enhancing, spiking the metrics to grow audience. But you have to really go through and see which of these are relevant to your product and to your target audience. So you're saying take time to define a strategy, figure out the formats you plan on using, think about the content types that appeal to your audience. And how you know what content types will appeal to your audience is going back to the personas that were developed in the planning phase, where we identified who the audience is and where they're getting their information from. Share content across key content distribution and social platforms. Again, that comes out of the product marketing strategy of what would be the appropriate platforms. Track the key metrics, map these two goals, be aware of main sharing triggers. Now, sharing triggers, this is a great concept, and these are really how different headlines and different ways of describing content. Yes?
Check. We have 3 or 4 more minutes before that.
Okay.
So we have, and still take, if we can, a couple of questions.
Yes. So I identified Twitter as the leanest communication vehicle because there's no barrier to entry, there's no walls up, anyone could access it. Jonathan Zittrain from Harvard talks about the value of Twitter as being very powerful. And so I used Twitter and to develop everything that I've been experimenting with. It started with a tweet. I designed a Twitter chat format based on the power of Twitter chats, and I constantly experimented and went through this full process that created this whole community. Twitter chats are very powerful, and nobody understands the value of them. They're based on hashtags, and television shows are actually starting to use them. In marketing and advertising opportunity, the beauty of it is there's, again, no value to entry, and it doesn't cost any money it costs time to set up Twitter chats, but the benefit is you can share knowledge, you can increase influence, you can contribute value. So I just want to identify Twitter is powerful. Here's a recommended tweet format to contribute value in every tweet. If you say, please retweet, there's your call to action. You're identifying an article, so you're repurposing content. You're giving credit where credit is due to the author of it. You're shortening the URL so that they can definitely link to it right from the tweet. You're adding content where you're adding a point of view, and you're adding a hashtag based on the keywords that your market segment and your target audience would be searching for or responding to. Twitter, again, is very powerful, and from one tweet, you get a lot of information. You see how the tweeter is showcasing themselves with an avatar. You get the user handle. You can follow their URLs. You can see what their point of view is. You can apply, if you expand, you can see who else has retweeted or responded to this tweet. You can click and reply directly to them. You can easily retweet, and there's even more advanced options where you can isolate this individual tweet and include it in a blog as well as get even more information about that tweet and that tweeter.